That was the longest State of the Union address in American history. Donald Trump addressing Congress for the fifth time in a setting like this. Just looking to see if he's actually going to start speaking again. Started off on very contentious terms. Congressman Al Green interrupting at the outset when the president claims a historic mandate from his victory in the 2024 election. Congressman Green repeatedly interjecting and then removed by the orders of the Sergeant-at-Arms, while Republican members of Congress jeered and made gestures toward him, celebrating him being ejected over the course of the president's remarks. See how many empty seats you can see behind him just there. That's because Democrats as a group filed out quickly when he was done, but a number of Democrats left well before he was done, in the middle of his remarks. They included Jasmine Crockett from Texas, Maxwell Frost walked out, Maxine Dexter from Maryland, Andrea Salinas from Oregon, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, Pramila Jayapal. We believe that's only a partial list. A number of Democrats left during the remarks. The president, in his, what we believe was ad-libbing, we did not have prepared remarks from the president, which is unusual. White Houses usually distribute prepared remarks, so we don't know what was digression from those remarks and what was ad-lib. But the president did repeatedly seem to be ad-libbing when he was remarking on the expected impact of the economic decisions he's already made 6 weeks in, saying that the American people would have to bear with him, that there would be a little disturbance, that there would be an adjustment period. And again, he said a little disturbance, essentially suggesting that the roiling that we saw in the markets is something that he knows he caused, but he hopes people will not mind. For the record, the worst inflation in this country was in 1980. For the record, the economy that he was left by President Biden was not a catastrophe. It was literally the best economy in the world and was described by The Economist magazine as the envy of the world. That was the economy that was left to Donald Trump by Joe Biden. For the record, Social Security is not paying benefits in large numbers to 300-year-old people or 250-year-old people or 200-year-old people or 150-year-old people. In fact, the idea of Social Security as a bastion of massive fraud and overpayment is completely false. For the record, U.S. auto company CEOs are not psyched and delighted and so excited about President Trump's economic policies, including his tariffs. Take, for example, the CEO of Ford, Jim Farley, who said that Trump's tariff policies would, quote, blow a hole in the U.S. auto industry that, quote, we've never seen. The president flat out lied about U.S. versus European spending to support what used to be about $125 billion to Ukraine's defense. Europe has committed about $259 billion. The president radically misstating the character and quantity of our relative support for what used to be our ally, now appears to be only Europe's ally and no longer ours. For the record, Joe Biden did not close over 100 power plants. There were more utility-sized power plants up and running in the United States when Joe Biden left office than when he achieved office. For the record, there is no EV mandate. For the record, oil and gas production in the United States hit all-time records under President Joe Biden. For the record, even DOJ has never claimed that they have saved hundreds of billions of dollars in savings. The largest items they have claimed to achieve as savings in the U.S. budget have been debunked and they've been taken down, but even they don't falsely claim hundreds of billions of dollars worth of saving. For the record, and this is disgusting, the president made a spectacle out of praising a young man who's thus far survived pediatric cancer, as if the president had something to do with that. This was in the midst of him praising DOJ. The DOJ cuts, among other things, have cut off funding for ongoing research into pediatric cancer. For the record, I will note that Donald Trump did admit in his remarks today explicitly that Elon Musk is the head of DOJ, And while that comes as no surprise to anybody who's been following the facts of this matter, that will end up in court because that is directly contrary to what the administration has overtly sworn to a federal judge about the leadership of Doge. I should also note, and this doesn't have to be for the record, I'll just note it for our own experience tonight, that at that point in the speech, when the president talked about how we will no longer be ruled by unelected bureaucrats, Democrats in the chamber pointed and laughed at Elon Musk. Unelected bureaucrat. Nicole Wallace, I'm sorry to dump a lot of fact checks there, and that's not even scratching the surface of the things that need to be fact checked there. That's literally what was off the top of my head. Yeah. So there's more to say along those lines.
People should know that. I mean, this was not a 7,000 people doing this. This was what you sort of caught from your own reporting on the Trump administration. I mean, the facts are probably few and far between, but I think that's the point, right? Like those of us covering this, we come on the air to do our shows, and the point is there's so much. So let's just stick with DJ. I mean, I think that if there was a moment where your whole body could relax and you could celebrate someone, it was the 13-year-old cancer survivor who would like to be a police officer. It was a genuinely beautiful moment, in the moment that probably was most familiar to the State of the Union addresses we were both a part of. Problem is, in the beauty of that child is the tragedy of the Trump presidency, because we don't know how he survived pediatric cancer, but it is likely he benefited from some sort of cancer research, and it is a fact that Trump has slashed cancer research. It's a fact. By eliminating NIH and by all the cuts, pediatric cancer trials are halted, and God willing, he won't need any more treatment, but if he does, I hope that NIH wasn't responsible for anything that let him live this long. He also talked about wanting anyone who murdered a cop to receive the death penalty. But Donald Trump's first action was to pardon all of the January 6th insurrectionists who assaulted and violently beat cops.
Who were convicted of it.
Correct. So I think there's a shallowness, and I think that I mean, I know you, and I know you probably could have gone on for another 30 minutes with the fact check, and it's vital, and we have to do it. But I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel, and I let myself feel joy about DJ, and I hope he's alive for another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives and the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy and then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people.
Lawrence, we're about 3 minutes out from what we're expecting to be the Democratic response from Senator Alyssa Slotkin. Let me get your initial response to what you just heard.
Well, let's remember, it's hard to do this in the Trump era, that if any previous president had stood up there and said, we need Greenland, the 2 people behind him, the vice president and the speaker, would have quickly conferred and rushed that president to the hospital. Ended the speech right there, with an overt burst of madness by the president at the microphone. There would have to be an intervention, but not now. What's interesting about the lies tonight is one of his favorites wasn't there. And that is after really intense 48 hours of coverage of tariffs. He did not tell the American people the lie tonight that foreign countries pay the tariffs. CNBC and other outlets have been really educating the voters intensely, over the last couple of days about who pays the tariffs. We had Prime Minister Trudeau say to the American people today, your government chose to do this to you. And so the mystery or the question of who pays the tariffs is over. And people now know it. He didn't try to get away with that one. And the tariffs was the shortest section of the speech. It is the news of the day and the world. And Donald Trump was afraid to talk about his tariffs.
He did tell a lie about it. Can you indulge me on this one?
You got 1 minute and 10 seconds before she starts.
Okay, this has to do with Doge. Doge's report card, Elon Musk would say, is Treasury rates.
Else for the State of the Union address review. Jaw drops. Straight for the man who's, well, he's put the panic in Hispanic, President Trump himself. It's the only speech where fact checkers are busier than a one-armed wallpaper hanger. A speech that was so packed with alternative facts, even Pinocchio was taking notes. Anyway, here's our 24/7 exclusive laugh-packed rebuttal that I don't even think Conan O'Brien's lawyers would touch with a 10-foot pole. Welcome to the State of Confusion address. Tonight, we witness President Trump deliver his State of the Union, which he might as well have called it the State of Delusion. It's the only speech the fact checkers are seriously busier than a one-armed wallpaper hanger. Elon's space oddity and Trump's terra firma fantasy. That's what we saw. First off, Trump praised his president, Elon Musk, who seems to be on a mission to make Mars habitable for humans because Earth might be too damaged by the end of this term. Trump hailed him as a pioneer, forgetting to mention the only thing Elon has actually pioneered lately is how to crash stocks with a single tweet, or X, whatever it's called. It's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's just Elon's latest business model going up in flames. Trade wars, the art of losing deals. Trump boasted about winning trade wars so much that even his tariffs started to feel like participation trophies. Who knew that the best way to win a trade war, according to Trump, was to surrender faster than you can say, made in China? Melania's independence saga continues. Melania, bless her, tiny violin. Heart. She's taken social distance into a whole new level, moving to a different wing of Mar-a-Lago. At this rate, she'll need a visa to visit Trump in the Oval Office. Fox News, the lapdog media. Oh dear. If flattery were a sport, they'd be the perennial Olympic champions. They brown-nosed so hard during the address, you'd think they were digging for oil. I'm serious, if brown-nosed were an Olympic sport, they'd have won more gold than Fort Knox. They literally covered Trump's speech with such glowing admiration, you'd think he just solved quadratic equations live on air, instead of mixing up the nuclear codes with his Twitter password. Something like that. Zelensky and the art of being ignored. Trump's advice to Zelensky about handling Russians was like, well, asking a fire hydrant how to deal with dogs. Subtle and oh so helpful. Just like his health policies. The unspoken State of the Union highlights. Trump forgot to mention a few minor details in his speech. I know. The wall is now just a line in the sand drawn with a Trump-branded golf club. What happened to Mexico? The new health plan. Spoiler alert. It's an apple a day and a pat on the back from Dr. Oz. Yeah. Actually, the new healthcare plan is called Survival of the Fittest. May the odds be ever in your favour. His climate change plan involves buying a fan if it gets too hot. Sorry. And as for his immigration policy, if you can dodge a wrench, well, you can dodge a border patrol. One of those planes dropping from the sky. Question. What's weaker, Marco Rubio or Trump's golf handicap? Honestly, it's a toss-up after watching that State of the Union address. Marco has been so ineffective, he makes ghost employees look busy. He's like the appendix of the political world. No one's really sure what he does or why he's there. He loves the sofa like J.D. Vance. In conclusion, if Trump's presidency were a movie, it'd be called Dumb and Dumber, now with more X, as in Twitter. Remember, every time Trump tweets, a fact checker loses their wings. In fact, if Trump's speeches were like the one tonight, any more detached from reality, it would need its own zip code. Here's to another year of tweets, X's, tantrums, maybe a trade deal or two, or war, provided they're negotiated at the kiddie table. Let me just say, after watching that, if you're feeling down about politics, just imagine Trump and Elon playing chess, where every move, well, it's a checkmate against logic.